Let's welcome Prakash Diwan, on the show. Hi, Prakash. Good afternoon. I'll tell you what, Prakash. If you ask the retail investor out there, they would have preferred today's session in comparison to the last four, because today the mid-cap index is doing well. Today the breadth of the market is well, and in fact, some of these mid-cap and small-cap names, they're doing very, very well. So a lot of portfolios will feel much better getting into this weekend. That said, a couple of these stocks are doing very well. I'm not sure, Prakash, if you track the smart meter space. Genius Power is one stock that's moving higher, and HPL Power as well. That's the other one that's moving higher. And for this week itself, we're seeing quite a bit of traction on these stocks. Have you been following that theme, smart meters?
Good afternoon, Nigel. So, while the theme is pretty well discovered and all of us understand that it holds a lot of promise, given the fact that our infrastructure lags behind in terms of, I shouldn't be using this word, but in the right sense, policing of usage of electricity in some of the parts where it's notoriously, the leakages are so high, the transmission losses. But the unfortunate part with this entire business is the reason why some of these companies, while they're doing great work, don't get valuations which are very encouraging, is because of the regulatory overhang. I mean, it all depends so much on how the regulations pan out. And that's one of the reasons why even companies which build capacities, which started pouring into it in an active way, didn't do it. So, a simpler way to play this theme without being subjected to the risk of regulatory changes or delays in regulatory changes on the metering side is actually to go into the downstream products, which is things like magnets, things like diodes, things like, so there's lots that goes into that. And to be honest, HBL Power System has much more than just that. I mean, they have so many other things going for themselves. But I think it's a great franchise in terms of what they're doing for the defense, for the railways. So, it's definitely, I think there's no comparison between Genius and this. This is way ahead. It's quite superior to a lot of the other businesses. And they've got proven expertise on a lot of these very innovative products, engineering products, which is going to take much more time for others to catch up with, whether it's in the defense side, whether it's in the safety aspects of the railways, locomotion. So, there's much more to it. I think we should look at that for sure, rather than just that sliver of metering business that you mentioned.
Batteries, electronics, e-mobility, defense, spun concrete, battery energy storage systems. I mean, it's I'm of course reading from the website, but yeah, I mean, it's a pretty diversified entity. So yeah, absolutely. Although it's come up to these 110, 115 kind of levels a few times since the last quarter, and it's turned around. So let's see if this time it's able to take these out. Prakash, hi, afternoon. We're seeing a little bit of rebound in names like PB Fintech, etc. Is this the bottoming out process finally, or you think too early?
Good afternoon, Prashant. So, I think it's going to be extremely difficult to figure out, or identify the right bottom for some of these newly listed businesses. But out of those, if you really ask me, and I mentioned this earlier, there are two businesses that to me seem very logical, and there's not much of competition per se in terms of what they can deliver, what they are delivering. So one is PB Fintech, given the fact that their presence in the policy via the Policy Bazaar portal is so strong, and the way things are changing in terms of the insurance pricing structure, the entire value chain which they've tried disrupting is actually moving in favor of that disruption. So somewhere I think they will start restoring some sort of a profitable growth, and that's what's missing right now. So if that missing piece is added to the story, then there's a very different relook at it that people will be willing to make. Of course, it's a different matter that the pricing at which it was offered in the IPO and all was too exorbitant, too exuberant, and you're paying the price for it. The second business, similarly, which has its place under the sun, and at some point will start offering value, is delivery itself. The reason is what they are trying to do, and they have proven themselves to be doing it successfully for so many businesses and partnering them on the fulfillment side, the end-to-end solutions that they can provide. I think it's a marvelous example of how critical logistics is. I'm a big, proponent of the fact that India as a force cannot grow internally or externally on the export side without logistics being mature enough or robust enough or deep enough as an ecosystem. And that's exactly what they play on. my sense is you can take your pick in terms of how pricey you want to pay for it in terms of valuation. But at some point, it will start offering a great proposition to have in your portfolio as an exposure. So yeah, I mean, difficult to pinpoint, but I think it's closer to that zone than ever before in the last. I mean, we've seen it erode so much of value, and now it's giving you that kind of a window. But you could probably wait for some more time before that call is.
All right, we take that point, Prakash. That's about the new age stocks. But let's move back to the old world and a bunch of stocks that you thoroughly enjoy analyzing. This is the Auto Pack, which is doing well today. We have Hero MotoCorp, which is moved to the high point of trade. Tata Motors, after a full year of underperformance, is actually finding some favor. And what's running faster is Tata Motor DVR, which is about 8.5% higher. Still trading at a rough 45-50% discount to the full price share. Wanted to know your thoughts on the auto space, and do you now like Tata Motors after the weakness that we've seen in the stock, or the underperformance that we've seen?
Good afternoon, Mangalam. So yes, I think it's a very interesting kaleidoscopic kind of environment of sorts that's happening, whether it's in terms of market share, whether it is in terms of product expansion. Every now and then you see somebody or the other trying to outdo the others in one of these aspects, whether it's the distribution mechanism or the way they are selling. Tata Motors, for instance, has grown and has been rewarded as a stock for all the changes that they made in the last 2 years on the PV side. Mind you, they also have a fairly decent EV exposure, which we are kind of ignoring, and we all the time keep on ending up to reward the larger player, and that's Ashok Leyland. But the CV portfolio also at some point in time will get re-rated for Tata Motors. I don't know whether it happens in this quarter, it kind of starts next quarter, but somewhere the numbers will start speaking for themselves. And the other thing is the electric vehicle portfolio, especially after the recent launch on the more affordable price points, is yet to kind of start reflecting in its growth. So somewhere that will also start having, and it's corrected itself in terms of giving you that opportunity where things have caught up, the business improvement has caught up, and it probably is not as expensive. But DVR reflects that. DVR typically reflects that, and Nigel and I spoke about this a couple of weeks back, where the discount was narrowing and it will continue to narrow, and that's what's happening. So there you have the DVR probably outperforming in the short term, but as a long-term bet, yes, Tata Motors will also start offering tremendous value given the changes in the environment that it's making.
Take that point. Meanwhile, just keep an eye out on the bottom of your screen, where we understand that the Adani group, which had spoken about fundraising plans, now there is some details to that. In fact, they will raise 20,000 crore rupees via a fresh issue of equity. So it's an FPO which is coming in on Adani, and the stock obviously has digested this news, as a result of which we are seeing a wee bit of a decline on that counter. But let's move on and talk about some source-based news that we are getting. Sources tell CNBC-TV18 that the Kirit Parikh committee, which is reviewing the gas pricing mechanism, is likely to submit its report to the government